Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today I'm taking a look at the Imperium Nihilus Vigilus Defiant book. It's the latest campaign book from Games Workshop for Warhammer 40,000. And I guess to give it a parallel, something that people might be familiar with, it harkens back to the days of things like the Armageddon or Eye of Terror Codex. What it tries to do is add a sort of like a famous historic battle to the new lexicon of Warhammer 40k 8th edition. And give us a bunch of sort of like different armies and approaches to fielding different armies that were in that battle zone. So, first off, I'm going to break this review into 4 parts. The first part is going to be the story and background, in a nutshell, the TLDR story that's in this book about sort of what's going on in Imperium Nihilus and Imperium Sanctum, the 2 Imperiums that now exist, as the Great Warp Rift, basically. I'm not even going to try and say Cicatrix Maledictum Torum Terium. I don't know. I'm not going to say that word. There's too many 25-cent words in 40k now. The Great Rift, which is the big split from the Eye of Terror to the other side of the galaxy, basically, that's torn the Imperium in half. There's 2 sides now. There's the side that Terra is on, and they call it Imperium Sanctum, and that's like the safe zone, basically, where things are relatively okay, as things can be okay in 40k. And Imperium Nihilus, is the side it's on the other side of the Astronomicon, so like warp routes are really hectic, and you're basically cut off from like the bulk of the Imperium. And this little planet, which is called Vigilus, is a bastion world on basically the bridge between the 2 of them. So there's a warp route that can run between the 2 Imperiums, and the Dark Imperium, which is the Nihilus side, is dependent upon this other side for pretty much everything, for like material to run through, for arms and equipment, for all kinds of stuff to just like come across this warp rift. And so it sucks to be them. And this kicks off when there's an orc invasion of Nihilus. Now, previously, Nihilus was a world a bit like Armageddon. In fact, a lot like Armageddon. There's a lot of Armageddon soaked into this book in the background side of things. It's an industrial planet. It's got a ruling house of like half ecclesiarch, or I guess a third ecclesiarchs, a third nobility, and a third like Mechanicum. None of them get along. They all squabble. The Imperial Governor dies. And it was previously like mined out. The Mechanicum was mining it out, and it was kind of a breadbasket world for like material and tanks and equipment and just stuff. And so the place is just a huge toxic wasteland of dust. There's almost no water. In fact, if you go outside for too long, all of the like chemicals and like bad stuff in the sand dunes will desiccate your body in a matter of hours. So it'll just suck all the moisture out of you. So you have to go around in armored suits or armored crawlers or whatever, and the only life forms that exist outside are like giant carapaced insects and predators and things that hunt the dunes. So it basically sucks there. It's not a very nice place to live, but it was important before because it was a breadbasket world for like arms and equipment, and now it's really important because it's this gateway basically between the 2 Imperiums. And an orc speedwa attacks it. So hooray! And that's really it. So the speedwa attacking it kind of kicks off a whole bunch of other things. There's a Genestealer Cult uprising because another local planet basically seeds the Genestealer Cult a couple centuries earlier in there, and they use the speedwa attacking to like just like basically be like a reason that their revolt can happen early. The Gellerpox arrive, so the Gellerpox invade, and then the Death Guard are not far behind because they were the ones fighting on Ultramar in the Dark Imperium against Guilliman. And then a bunch of other factions show up too, as happens. The Iron Hands show up with the Brazen Claws, the Crimson Fists, the Black Templars, and the Imperial Fists show up. And then finally, because he gets like a crazy missive from Guilliman, and Tigurius sends him like a dream message that shouldn't be possible because no one can really do astral telepathy anymore because of the Great Rift. Calgar shows up. And we're in this sort of like multi-front, multi-stage war. Oh yeah, and Biltan shows up too, because Biltan. And so you've got on the planet side, the Ecclesiarchy, which is like the Sisters of Battle and stuff. You've got the Guard, the local planetary defense. You've got the Mechanicum, and then these Space Marine chapters all show up. Oh yeah, and a tiny group of Space Wolves too, just cuz. And then of course Biltan, no, same hand shows up. Actually, the Wind Riders, not Biltan. One of the Tans. the Tans or Hams or whatever. It's the Wind Riders, the guys on jet bikes. And so you have this multi-fronted assault. So To basically sum up who's in this book, if you're curious as to who is in this book faction-wise, it's everybody that got a new release this year. So it's Tooth and Claw, Wake the Dead, the Rogue Trader box set. Like, this is like the Seinfeld episode where everybody from the show shows up at the end. And they're all on the planet together, and they're all having a big war. So the obvious importance of this planet is that it's in this bridge in between Imperium the First, the sort of like surviving light of the Astronomicon Imperium, and the Dark Imperium, which is the side, the Nihilus side, which is just besieged on all fronts and dependent upon the original side. And this book kind of like ties together all the releases for this year. So if you were excited about a release this year and you started a new army based on these releases, what's cool is for you, you've got an army in this book. There's something in here for you that is like ready to go, and you also have special rules. Whatever you build had special rules. So everything from the Speed Freaks box set through to you know, like Wake the Dead and Tooth and Claw with the Genestealer Cult and stuff. You got there's some jazz in here that's meant for you. And then that's kind of a tidy way of doing it. And so that's the first thing, is the background stuff, I guess, and what's in here. The second thing is going to be the campaign rules. So you've got rules for actually playing the campaign of like the first 3 stages of this war, which is kind of cool. And then on top of that, you've got the Battlezone and Warzone rules for playing on planets either like this or Nihilus itself. So its moon, and all the kind of like different conditions and like battlefield conditions that are around there. There's even like a battlefield zone for Genestealer Cult Uprising, where like Genestealers just attack you while you're having a war, but they're like, even like if they're not part of the battle, just a bunch of Genestealers show up and fight you. That's pretty cool. And the third part is the detachments, like the specialty detachments, the special rules for them, for all of the factions that are in this fight. So if you're hoping there was something in this book and your army didn't come out this year, or there wasn't like a release for your army this year, you might not have anything. The people that drew the wild card slots basically were, I guess, the Templars and the Imperial Fists. They didn't, I mean, if you count, I guess you can kind of count all the Primaris stuff that came out as them, but you can also kind of count that as being all the Ultramarines that are in here. So Gilliman showing up with two full companies of Ultramarines. You've got these little other Space Marine chapters in there as well, like the Crimson Fists. But then weirdly, there's nothing for the Iron Hands. They show up first with the Brazen Claws, but there's nothing in here for them. There's no special detachment for the Iron Hands. There's just the Crimson Fists, Imperial Fists, Black Templars, the Primaris, just in general army, which I guess you could count as the Iron Hands one, or the Brazen Claws one, and then some Space Wolves and Ultramarines. And that's it. So, yeah, weird. They get mentioned, but they don't get actually rules. Sorry, Iron Hands players. And those are the 4 parts. So you've got my TLDR version of the history of the War of the Beasts on Vigilus. There's obviously a lot more in here. In fact, as far as this book goes, up to the campaign section, we're talking about 114 pages of new background, pushing the timeline forward and basically giving you new story about Imperium Secundus and this whole, sorry, not Imperium Secundus, that's the plan from the Horus Heresy. That doesn't happen. The Imperium Nihilus, the other side, and then just what's going on sort of like in the current events. And there's some cool little, like, I guess, shout-outs. Like, for instance, the Gellerpox arriving, there's a whole shout-out to all of the story that happens in the Rogue Trader book. And then it's totally made irrelevant, because, like, I can't remember what's her name, Farstride, whatever the name of the Rogue Trader is. She basically sacrifices one of her ships and her whole crew, stopping this one cargo ship full of Gellerpox from getting across the bridge to Imperium Sanctus. And she gets back, she gets debriefed by Calgar, and she's put in quarantine and all this stuff. And then they find out that 3 days earlier, 3 other cargo ships went and they got across anyway. So it's like, there's just these like, it's like one of those movies where, you know what it is? It's like Alien 3, where you find out the events of Alien and Aliens just didn't mean anything. And the aliens got away and everyone that you cared about was dead. It's that kind of like, the rug comes out story. So good job. We got David Fincher shoutouts in here. And yes, there's 114 pages of it. So for the background, like, enthusiast, there's a lot to dig your teeth into, and there's very specific background about the different hives on the planet, the history of the planet itself, and certainly way more so than there was in any of the old campaign books, like even Storm of Chaos and some of the Warhammer Fantasy ones. Storm of Chaos is a good example, actually, because that was the Archaeon's invasion of the Empire that gave you a lot of information that you didn't previously have about certain cities and certain factions, and especially with the tribes of the Marauders and stuff like that. Well, in this one, it's about the dynasties of certain cities and just sort of what's been coming and going on there. And so then we get into the campaign rules. Now the campaign is pretty reminiscent of other past campaign systems. It's an 18-week campaign, almost like flowchart. There's 18 weeks of, well, it could be weeks, it could be days, however you want to run it. There's 18 stages and broken into 3 sets of 6 for the campaign. So sorry, there's 6 rounds in 3 phases, I guess is the actual terminology they use. And you're trying to earn glory points to declare a winner once all the campaign grounds have been completed. The person with the most glory points is the winner. Yay! And you get, for instance, 10 for every winning player. Using a Vigilus battle zone, you get 2+ for, like, basically the more book rules you use from this campaign book, it's just to encourage people to use the book. So you could just add this to your gaming night for 18 weeks if you want. You could add it to just like your local hobby stores like Calendar or whatever. And it actually, I think, would be really useful for theming 40K nights. If you were a retailer that was looking to just kind of like jazz up your 40K community, especially if obviously there's something in this book for them that came out in the last year that people build armies around. So anyway, the Primaris army, lots of stuff in here for you. Anybody that built Ultramarines, anybody that just bought a Dark Imperium box set and painted one of the 2 sides. Anybody doing the Conquest right now, which is the mail away you get to build a part play Warhammer 40K army. This book's got something in it for you. And then each phase gives you sort of like benefits for certain armies, a suggested mission list. You get bonus glory points for playing one of the missions. And they could be rulebook missions, or they could be one of the 12 missions that's in this book. So for instance, round 1, in this round, the campaign following special rules apply, Rampaging Greedtide. All of the orcs, it's when the orcs first invade. All of the orcs get +1 to their advance moves and charge moves. Yay, just for free. And then I like the Imperium one a lot because the council running Vigilus just like can't get their shit together. Like they're just, it's the usual classic human problem. Nobody agrees on anything. They're resolute yet arrogant. They get +1 leadership to all Imperium units. However, if a player's army is Battleforged and includes units from more than one of the following factions, you subtract 1 from your total number of command points. If you mix Sororitas, Mechanicus, and Militarum, because they don't get along and they fight, you lose the CP. So it's kind of cool. If you do like a Soup Imperium army, you're going to lose some CPs because they're just bad at being an Imperium right now. And then you earn bonus GPs, so you earn bonus glory points for playing the following missions: Storm the Lines or Data Recovery, which are in this book. And then Patrol from the 40K rulebook. So it's just a neat way of theming your games, basically. And I like that it's open-ended. So you would just do a big roster sheet for it. There actually isn't, weirdly, there isn't one in here. I thought the back book would have like a campaign sign-up sheet, but Workshop's usually pretty good about putting that stuff out online. So I would look in the coming weeks when this comes out and just see if there's like a PDF you can download for running it. Or even it might be something like the trade managers are emailing out to stores. If you're running a store, you might be able to just get one. Or even a kit to do this stuff. But yeah, you'd be able to just like track your glory points. You can come and go. There's no like having to match up or pair games. This is my preferred way of running campaigns, where it isn't so strict that people can't drop in, drop out, because I find the more strict and restrictive you make a campaign, it has to have typically a really small committed group to have really detailed restricted rules. And if you're trying to make it a big fun campaign with like a leaderboard, which is what this is, a leaderboard campaign, the more open and broad you make it, where pickup games can just count towards the campaign, typically the more successful it is overall. And of course you've got a bunch of different like events and stuff you can roll for as well, which is cool. So the events all theme it based on sort of like where you are, how the warp is doing, like how the planetary crust is doing, because like the Mechanicum like drill too deep and magma spurts everywhere, the tectonic plates are to shift, whatever terrifying terraforming problems you might have on an Imperial planet. It's been mined out for like 10,000 years. And those the campaign arbitrator, who's called, what's he called? The Architect of Fate. Someone's in charge of choosing the event special rules that take place, or you dice for it or whatever. If you use the Chaotic Flux mission, it's kind of like the arbitrator rules from Necromunda. That person becomes kind of like tacitly in charge of the campaign. I think you have 12 missions. There's 6 Crucible War and 6 Echoes of War, and they're all themed on like the planet or like a special, almost like asymmetrical kind of story. So you have a convoy mission, hold your ground that you've gained, storm the lines, extraction, a running battle, and data recovery, which are the 6 Crucible of War missions. And then the Echoes of War ones are all kind of based around the battle zones, the new battle zone rules. And there's the Delta of Flame, the Angels of Death Descends, like a Space Marine one, Forlorn Charge, like the outnumbered and sort of like last people charge into the Gates of Death, Behead the Viper, so kill a commander, Breach of Quarantine, and Carnage in the Spires. All very cool, all built around the different battle zones, which I'll talk about in a second. And the battle zones I'll give you, of course, like they usually do, different stratagems you can use. These are really reminiscent of the commander scenarios from the Kill Team expansion, where you're getting very like thematic movie. It's like I imagine like the design meeting for this at the studio was 12 guys in a room, and the first thing they did was throw up some of their favorite sci-fi movies, or even just like war movies, and then we pick like famous war movie battles and then boil them down and like, well, what happened here? Like, what are some really cool tropes we could dig from? And that was sort of like that was the feeling behind this, just like it was the feeling behind Kill Team Commanders, where you can kind of reenact a heroic story, but in this case, it's more of a large battle one. There's a little Saving Private Ryan in here, right? There's a little enemy at the gates in here, all that stuff. And then finally, you've got in the section 3. So we're through the campaign section here, because really it's just about playing games, earning glory, and then winning. You've got your battle zones, and the battle zones are another great way of adding they're just like the battle zones are in. Actually, they're even laid out the same. The page layout's almost the same as the battle zones in Kill Team. It just gives you a different way to play the game in a different setting. So. Ironically, I can literally already in my head see like a gaming mat that fits all of these. So all you would really need to do to play these battle zones and kind of make it compelling is if you have a gaming mat that you think would fit it, or if you use gaming mats, obviously, just pull that out and use these rules in your 40k games, and it'll add some cool new things. So for instance, the one battle zone is Wasteland Duststorm, so the Dune battle mat. You've got Tundric Blizzard, which is in the northern hemispheres, where like you're in the tundra deserts, so like the ice deserts. There's a Warquake, because the war's been going so like hot and heavy that like the tectonic plates are shifting now. A Geothermal Eruption, because the Mechanicus digs too deep. The Spirescape, which is kind of a cool one, because you're basically fighting over the top of a hive city. So like you're crawling on top of it on the roofs and domes, and just imagine like the roofs of some of these spire buildings might be like 10 miles across. So whole battles could take place on the outside of the hive, just like people, like whole armies like driving out and marching around. And then my favorite one, Battlezone Genestealer Infestation. You accidentally stumble in somewhere with a Genestealer infestation, and 2d6 Genestealers can just pop up on the table and start killing people, which I thought was pretty cool. Then you have the different Warzone rules, and these are all based on the actual locations in the background of the book that are sort of like described in detail. So there's Hyperia Hive Sprawl, Mega Borealis, The Wastes, Otek Hive Sprawl, and Mortwald. And all of these places are important in the backstory. So like Mortwald, for instance, is the biodomes. It's how the planet's being fed. It's these huge domes that are actually like capable of sustaining life and have like tillable soil, and they're full of like trees and different like agrarian like almost like plantations that are feeding like the population of the city. And they break open at one point, and it goes bad, and you could be playing in there. And that's sort of like the idea is that, again, it's all very open and flexible, and it's almost like a menu of options, as opposed to you must play this, you must play this, you must play this. It's here's 18 missions. If you play them in order, session-wise, like if you just theme your games in order this way, you follow the progression of how the war goes, and then here's all the spots you could play it in, and here's all the crazy things that could happen in those spots, and here's all of the like types of battles that might happen in those spots. So it is kind of an a la carte campaign system. It's not super restrictive. And if you're looking at running, if you're just like the game club organizer and you're just looking at throwing some themes together, this one is, I would say probably the easiest to run style campaign that GW usually puts together. There's no map required. There's not a lot of bookkeeping. You just need a leaderboard basically of names and how many points people put together. And it would be super easy to run. And then just people need to bring their books. So yeah, good for retailers, I think, probably if they want to run some stuff. Great for gaming clubs that just want to theme their games. And overall, like my kind of campaign system. I have very little faith in the ability of something to not peter out after something almost like 30 years experience of like having tried to run campaigns successfully and unsuccessfully. I've had lots of campaigns that have imploded like a dying sun. So I like the way this has been put together, because it's a cool menu of things to choose from. You don't have to use any of it, but it just adds more detail and depth to your games. So if people just want to keep playing their same boring match play ITC games in your league night and they'll still count towards the league, they can. If people want to actually spice things up, do some asymmetrical story missions, or even play with, it doesn't even matter if you use match play or power. You can do whatever you want. Narrative, match play, power, you just play your games. It all counts for the campaign. And actually it rewards you with more glory the more narratively you play it too, which I think is awesome. So the guy that just comes in and plays, you know, a game every week, doesn't necessarily earn more glory just for grinding it out than people that like plan and put together terrain and stuff, because they're going to earn extra glory points for putting more effort into making it shiny, basically, is what it is. And so this is part 3, down to part 4 now, which is all the new faction rules and the 2 new data sheets. Well, I guess it's technically 3. 2.5 data sheets that are in here. And the data sheets are pretty cool. So the first one is for everybody's favorite, like, Bigly Man. And this is something that I find really funny, is you have almost like a art becoming life becoming art kind of thing going on here, and it's even in the story for this guy. So this is Marneus Augustus Calgar, the Lord of a Crag, Chapter Master of the Ultramarines, and the little text blurb about him is about how he feels like he's becoming obsolete. Reading through this whole thing, I was convinced that it was based on the plot of the movie Soldier with Todd, which, if you've never seen Soldier, it's the best film adaptation, I guess, of what it would be like to be like a regular Space Marine in the new Imperium. Right, where you've basically spent your whole life fighting these wars, and the movie is Kurt Russell's in this like gene program being raised to be like the perfect soldier from the time he's a kid, and then he goes on all these campaigns, wins all these accolades and awards, and then he gets old, and they replace him with the next model basically, and they dump him on a garbage planet, and the whole movie is about him having to come to grips with the fact that he's basically been made redundant, and Calgar actually feels that, his men feel that. In the Ultramarines chapter, and you can see that happening, and so he volunteers to be this first Marine grafted into a Primaris Marine, and kind of like coming to terms with it and being this like, no, we're not redundant, yes, we have a future kind of thing happening. And in this campaign, he basically plays the role of Dante, because in every campaign book there has to be basically like a planet that's really important. It gets invaded by tons of bad guys. They can't get their shit together for a long time, and then someone comes in and just goes, listen up, screwheads, this is what we're doing, takes over. And that was the Grey Knights in the first war for Armageddon, and then it was Dante and it was Yarick and Dante back to back in the second and third wars. And now it's Marneus Calgar in this one. Basically, he gets sent by Gilliman saying this: we must hold this at all costs because it'll break the Imperium in two if it gets overrun. And so his like angst about being made obsolete, it's kind of funny because it kind of mirrors the angst of like everybody right now assuming that this new Imperium doesn't include old Space Marines ever. And it's written right there in the background about how there's tons of Ultramarines, tons of Space Marines. They're just worried that they don't have jobs anymore. They're being made redundant. and all I could think was that he's Todd. He's no longer the shortest Space Marine. I'm so excited for him. Even in history, Calgar was always historically like just sculpted a little bit smaller than other Space Marines. Even so much so that the Terminator one was short, and they sculpted him on a rock, standing on a rock, so he was taller than all his friends, even in Terminator armor, which I thought was just funny. And now he's a Primaris Marines. He finally got his wish. He's a real boy. He's a big, tall spaceman. He's not just 6'1" anymore. He's actually 8 feet tall, or maybe 9 feet tall, I guess, if it's the new Space Marines. It's a cool resculpt. It's a cool plastic model. Comes with 2 other guys, and it's got full points, power, and rules in here. So I'll go through the rules for him right now. He's 200 points or 11 power for Marneus Calgar. He's Marneus Calgar in the armor of, I hate this, Heracles. Not Heracles, just say Heracles. Just armor Heracles. Just make it a reference. Don't put a plus on the end and make it hard to pronounce. He's moved 6 inches, 2+2+, strength 4, toughness 5, because he's wearing Mark 10 Gravis armor, which is cool. He's got 8 wounds, so he is a big boy. He's got big boy pants, and he is 6 attacks, leadership 9, 2+ save. Now, he's got the gauntlets of Ultramar. You can only include one of them, obviously, because he's a special, cool guy. And his gauntlets of Ultramar are pretty much the same as they were on him like when he was little. So 24-inch range, rapid fire 2 guns, the 2 little blasters. Strength 4, -1, 2 damage. So they're just Stormbolter, Mastercrafted bolters, basically. And then in melee, they're ×2 strength, -3 save, D3 damage, but no minus to hit. So he's got 6 2+ attacks. And so that stuff's not very different from before, but what makes him cool is he's got the usual Space Marine stuff, and they should know no fear. He's a chapter master, so reroll failed hit rolls within 6, but his armor gives him a 4+ invul and halves all damage he suffers rounding up. So against multi-damage weapons, this dude has 16 wounds, basically. You want to try and kill him with 1 wound things or with odd numbered wound things because you round it up. The orcs would be pretty good against him, and then he'll just get murdered by the Death Watch. Like, if the Death Watch can shoot him, they'll just murder him with their guns. Because they can just get, like, bolt rifles which just rapid fire him to death. He would just die. Because it's all 1 damage, but they have save mods, and they can just wound him on 2s. And then his last cool rule is he's a master tactician. If your army is Battleforged, you receive an additional 2 command points if Marneus Calgar is your warlord. That's pretty cool. And then he comes with his Victrix Honor Guard, which hilariously are shorter than him, and I thought for a while were just regular Space Marines when I saw the pictures of them, but are actually Primaris Marines apparently. And they're 6-inch move, 3+3+, strength toughness 4. They've got 3 wounds each, attacks 4, and leadership 9 with a 2+ save. They're armed with power swords, frag and crack grenades, and storm shields. They have a 3+ invul save. They got the usual Space Marine Mission No Fear, and then they've also got Honor Guard of Macragge. So if roll a d6 each time a friendly Ultramarine character within 3 inches of them loses a wound on a 2+, that wound's restored and they take a mortal wound. That's pretty cool. They can dive in front of bullets. And then Heroes of Ultramar, they can make heroic interventions if they're characters. And Calgar's Honor Guard, if they're in the same detachment as Calgar and it's Battleforged, they don't take up a slot. Because either they show up when he shows up. And they're 26 points each, 35 when you include their war gear. So they end up being 70 points for the 2 of them, and they're bought in 2s. That's pretty cool. And then we've got the other duder, Harkon Woldclaimer, who I'm pretty sure shares a name with Harkon Heartripper, who is a Blood Bowl assassin? Hakon Heartripper. Hakon? No, it's Harkon. Hakon. The names are just all blending together. After 30 years, I'm just amazed every time I see a fantasy name I haven't heard before. And very often there are ones that I hear before. So this dude, he's just a Raptor Chaos Lord, basically. And he's not really the big bad. He's the Herald of Abaddon. So you have to remember that this book is book 1. So assuming that next, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but I'm a guessing man, I would say that this was going to be next year's summer campaign book. So part 2 of this will probably come out in May or June with an Abaddon. And that's Abaddon finally showing up, and this is his new Black Crusader. This is when we get a new plastic Abaddon model. Because we got a new plastic Calgar, it's got to be something cool that comes out. And so he's not really the impressive one in this book. He's more like, I'm here to tell you of the coming of the Abaddon. Prepare yourself, blah, blah, blah. And so his jam is he's got a big loudspeaker you can see like built into his face. And he's read all the books of Chaosy Secrets. He's read Kurz's book. He's read Magnus's book. He's read Angron's growls. And I imagine just like crayon drawings. Because he was raised in like a gladiator pit and probably can't write. Yeah, and he's here to tell you that it's all going to go bad. He just shows up and he's like, hey, Imperium, the Abaddon's coming. You should get wrecked. And so his Stalin's pretty like just modest compared to Calgar's. He's 115 points, 12-inch move because he's a Raptor, and then 2+2+, strength toughness 4. He's got 5 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 9, 3+ save. He does have a Sigil of Corruption though for a 4+ invul. And he's got some pretty cool weapons. He's got a Hell Spear. It's just an Assault 1 12-inch. It's almost like a Singing Spear, but it's strength +1, so he's strength 5, -3 and D3 wounds. And you can reroll failed wound rolls for attacks made with this weapon. Oh no, sorry, that's not. It has no special abilities. I just started reading the Lightning Claw for some reason. And his other weapon's a Lightning Claw. So he can throw his spear, and he can stab with Lightning Claw. And that's really it. And then his other special rules, he's got Death of the False Emperor, just as you would if you're a Chaos Space Marine. He's got Lord of the Raptors, reroll hit rolls for attacks of melee weapons for friendly Raptors within 6 inches. Herald of the Apocalypse, enemies units within 18, subtract 1 for them to leadership, which is kind of neat. And then Raptor Strike, you can Deep Strike, that's out of 9. And Head Claimer, each time an enemy character is slain by this model, add 1 to his attack characteristic. So you can dial up his attacks when he kills characters. So yeah, watch out, Guard. If he walks through your unit of company commanders, he's going to have a lot of attacks. And then if he's your Warlord, he has to have the Lord of Terror Warlord trait because he is a Raptor. So he's taking like the Night Lordsy style 1 when he's doing his jam. And that's it. So those are the new units that are in the army. So let's talk about specialist detachments. And they're pretty important because we've seen some already, and they're the new thing added to 40K basically in this book. What do I want to compare them to? Well, they're not like the old campaign codexes really. They don't really do the same thing. What those used to do was take an existing codex and add a twist to it. So basically they would rearrange where things sat in the Force Org chart. And that's a very 3rd edition, 4th edition thing because everyone's using one Force Org chart. So what you would do is you would move things that used to be troops into fast or fast into troops or whatever. And that's how you got things like the Armageddon Steel Legion or the Orc Cult of Speed that was in Armageddon. Because again, A lot of throwbacks to the Armageddon book in this one. There's a Cult of Speed in here. So that's kind of like the thing that this feels like, but isn't quite like. What it is, it's almost like template detachments. So take a detachment type, fill it with these units, spend a CP. These units all get a new keyword that then unlocks special stratagems that only the people with that keyword can use, special warlord traits and relics that only they can use, and special psych powers that only they can use. Now there is a cool thing. If you use a special detachment, there's an additional stratagem that you use pre-battle called Field Commander. It means that even if your warlord isn't in this detachment, HQ in that detachment counts as its warlord and can take it counts as a warlord for the purposes of taking the special relic and the special psych power or the trait that's in there for them. And that's really cool because it means that you basically have multiple mini warlords for the purpose of these small attachments. Now, they're all built around specific units. So whenever I shout these out, it's kind of, I note down in your head what units I'm talking about, because you can't mix and match these with just any units that you want to have, right? There's one of these that's very open-ended. The rest of them are pretty specific to a specific like chapter or type of orc unit or whatever. And we'll start with the super open-ended one, because that's what they start with in the book, and that's the Indomitus Crusaders. So this one's the most open-ended because all it says is use this stratagem when choosing your army. Pick a Space Marine detachment from your army to be Indomitus Crusaders. Specialist detachment, Primaris Captains, Primaris Lieutenants, Primaris Ancients, Intercessor Squads, Inceptor Squads in this detachment gain the Indomitus Crusader rule. So because it keys off the Space Marine keyword, I'm pretty sure any army with Space Marines as a keyword gets this. So Deathwatch would get this. And just stay with me for a while, because Deathwatch having this could be crazy. And this is all that pops in my head because I play Deathwatch. But this would also play like Space Wolves or Blood Angels or anybody basically who has Space Marines. Even Grey Knights. Although I don't think Grey Knights get any Primaris units. I don't think. So yeah, they wouldn't benefit it from any way because there's no Primaris in Deathwatch or Grey Knights that I know of yet. Maybe soon. So yeah, so if you've done this, if you spent the CP, all of those units, Captains, Lieutenants, Ancients, Intercessor Squads, and Inceptors, all Primaris, can use the following things. So the Warlord trait, Grey Shield, once per battle starting your movement phase. If your Warlord's on the battlefield, you can choose for your Indomitus Crusader units in the same detachment to gain an additional chapter tactic until the start of the next turn. So let that sink in for a second. My Deathwatch could take, well, they don't have any chapter tactics, so I guess nothing. But my other Space Marine chapters could take the Raven Guard chapter trait. So like you get out Black Templars that are -1 to hit in the first turn if you're over 12 inches. Like a bunch of weirdness, a bunch of stuff, because it just says Space Marines. So yeah, that part wouldn't necessarily be advantageous to things that aren't just the regular Depths Astartes Codex. But you could just double down. You could take any of the ones in the following list. Lightning Assault, Codex Discipline, Siege Masters, Righteous Zeal, Master Artisans, Shadow Masters, and the Flesh is Weak from C Codex Space Marines. It does say C Codex Space Marines though, so maybe you can take them in Deathwatch. I don't know. And they benefit from both. So if you already have a chapter tactic in your army, you benefit from that one, and you benefit from this additional one that you take for one turn as well, which is just bananas. Then you get the relics of the Indomitus Crusade. So the Reliquary of Gathelmore is one. Enemy psychers subtract 1 from psych test within 18 inches of the bearer. In addition, if they fail a psychic test on a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds. Suck on that, bad psychers. Suck on that 1d6 psychers. That's gonna suck for them. Those, what was the old one that people used to spam? The ones from the Chaos book from Forge World. Don't remember their names right now, but yeah, that would suck for them bad. Then you have the Standard of the Ultimate Founding, which is your relic. Your second relic, actually. You get 2 relics in this one. And you get Primaris Ancient only once per battle at the start of your movement phase. The bearer can choose to plant the standard, and if they do so, Indomitus Crusader Infantry can reroll hits and wounds of 1 if they're within 6 inches. So he becomes a lieutenant and a captain for 1 round, just planting the banner in the first turn. It's kind of neat. It's free, except for CPs. That's kind of cool. And then you have 5. You have the most stratagems, I think, of any of these attachments. You have 5. The first one is Liberators. It's 1 CP. Use it at the start of the fight phase. Pick an Indomitus Crusader unit from your army. Until the start of your next turn, each time you roll a 6 to hit. For an attack made by that model, it inflicts 2 hits instead of 1. So you double your hits in melee. Yeah, it's kind of cool for 1. But remember, it only applies to Ancients, Intercessors, Inceptors, Lieutenants, and Captains. So for 1 CP, I don't know how good that is. But for 1 CP, use stratagem before the battle begins, pick an Indominus Crusader Intercessor squad. They gain the veteran keyword for the duration of the battle. They all get +1 attack and +1 leadership. Now the other 3 of these stratagems only apply to the units that you do that stratagem to. So only veteran intercessors can do these next 3. And it's all based on what kind of gun you gave them. So one's for stalker pattern bolt rifles, one's for auto bolt rifles, and one's for bolt rifles. So this could become, if you're basing your army around intercessors, you could make a really, if you want to blow a bunch of CPs, you could make a really elite intercessor army. And this is the one of these detachments where I'm like, I have seen some intercessor spam armies. You could really do a lot with 3 attack, leadership 8s, and then these stratagem guns, brigades, I think. So the first one, just battalions, just spam battalions. So the first one is target sighted. Use a stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick a veteran intercessor unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, stalker bolt rifles can gain the following ability. This weapon can target a character even if it's not the close enemy unit. If you roll a wound roll of 6+ for this weapon, inflicts a mortal wound in addition to its normal damage. So you all become snipers, you stalker pattern bolt rifles. The next one's Bolt Storm for 1 CP. All of your bolt rifles auto bolt rifles on veteran intercessors gain the following. When this weapon targets an enemy unit within half range, it automatically hits. Oh, and this is why I think this would be crazy with Deathwatch, because you could special ammunition all of these. And then the third one is Rapid Fire. Use stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick a veteran intercessor unit. All their bolt rifles become Rapid Fire 2. So that's where my brain went there. I don't know if it's going to work on Deathwatch, but I sure feel like it might. Rules is maybe not rules as intended, but rules is written for sure. And that's it. So that's the Indominus Crusaders. Then we've got the Ultramarines Vigilus Guard, and this is Marnius and his boys who show up on the planet. It's 1 CP to make Vigilus Guard, and it applies to captains, ancients. So this is actually, hilariously, all the non-Primaris stuff in the Ultramarines. It applies to captains, ancients, honor guard, Victrix honor guard, so the 2 guys who come with Marnius, Vanguard vets, and Stern Guard vets. They all get the Victrix Guard keyword. Your Warlord trait becomes Warden of Ultramar. Once per battle in the fight phase, you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Victrix guards within 6 inches of this Warlord. So now Marnius can take that, because he doesn't have a fixed Warlord trait. And yeah, and now you reroll hits and wounds within 6 of them once per game. Blah! And it's just Victrix Guard though, so remember, it's just going to be the Stern Guard. It's not going to be everything, it's just going to be the things from that list that do it. And then your relics, you get the Soldier's Blade, which is a pretty cool power sword. It replaces the power sword or mastercrafted power sword, and it becomes +1 strength, -4 save, and damage 2. That's a pretty cool sword. And then you get the Standard of McCracken Violet. It's for an ancient only, add 1 to the leadership characteristic of Ultramarines within 12. In addition, add 1 to the attack characteristic of Victrix Guard within 6. So, make you good fighters. 2 stratagems. 1 CP is Fight Like Demigods. Use this stratagem at the start of your fight phase. Pick a Victrix Guard unit from your army within 6 of the friendly captain. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until the end of the phase. It's cool. In the fight phase, hit on 2s. And then Strike First for Ultramar for 3 CPs. It's basically the fight interrupt for the assault phase, except you fight before everybody. Use it at the end of the charge phase. You don't use it during the fight phase. End of the charge phase, 3 CPs, 1 of your units that was charged or performed a heroic intervention gets to fight. Could definitely save the day if Marnius is there. And he's just like, no, I want to put 18 wounds into something. And that's it for the regular Space Marines, the Ultramarines. Let's jump into the Imperial Fists and their successors. So the Fists get a Siegebreaker cohort. It's only going to apply to Captains, Centurions, Dreadnoughts, Vindicators. They all get the Siegebreaker cohort keyword. They become indomitable for your Warlord. His Warlord trait is, if you do not move in the movement phase, friendly Imperial Fist infantry units within 6. So this does apply to units outside this detachment, right? It's just Imperial Fist infantry. They count as being in cover, and they automatically pass morale tests. 2+ save Devastators? Sure, okay. So +1 save and auto pass morale within 6 for no points. It seems pretty good. Only infantry though. And then your relic is the Eye of Hypnoth, reroll wound rolls of 1 for shooting attacks made by friendly Siegebreakers within 6. And that means you're rerolling 1s to wound now for Dreads, Captains, Centurions, and Vindicators. Is it a reason to bring Vindicators? I don't think so. Dreads? That sounds pretty cool. Last Cannon Dreads? I like that. And then your stratagems are Structural Demolition. This one is really corner case. First of all, your enemy needs to be using a building. You need to destroy that building, spend 1 CP, When they disembark, it has to be destroyed by someone from the Siegebreaker cohort. They roll 2d6 instead of 1 for their disembark, and take the lowest for if they get slain. So basically, you collapse the building on them. So like, I mean, it's cool. It's super thematic. Is it ever really going to come up in a game? Probably not. And then you got Seismic Devastation. This one's a bit cooler. Use stratagem to start the shooting phase or fight phase. Pick a Siegebreaker cohort unit from your army. Each time you make a wound roll of 6 when attacking a vehicle or building, it takes a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. So that could be cool for like dreadnoughts with heavy bolters or assault cannons maybe. And then with lots of shots, because wound rolls of 6 all of a sudden, you're getting mortal wounds. There's not a lot of things in there. The Centurions, if you gave them, it would be cool for the Centurions if you loaded them out with hurricane bolters, jumped them off real close, and like bolters and stuff, and just had them obliterate a vehicle. You just throw mortal wounds at it basically on 6s. Could be neat. And then you've got the Crimson. This is the two, you have two basically successor chapter things in here, which is the Crimson Fist Liberator Strike Force and the Templar Sword Brethren. For the Crimson Fists, you pay a CP and it applies to Primaris characters, Intercessors, Reavers, and Hellblasters. They get the Liberator Strike Force keyword. And this is like a baby version of the other one, the one from the very beginning, the Indominus Crusaders, because the Crimson Fists had to get basically repopulated by the Primaris. The Primaris represent like a new lease on life for the whole chapter. You get an Expert Instructor for your Warlord trait, reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly strike force within 9 of the Warlord, so it extends his bubble basically. And then the Vengeful Arbiter is a bolt pistol. It's kind of Judge Dredd's gun. It's a pistol to 12-inch range, strength 5, -1, 2 damage. And each time you make an attack with it, you can immediately make 1 additional attack if you hit. So each hit generates an additional hit, but they can't generate further hits after that. So you can do 4 hits. Kind of neat. 4 damage, 2 hits in melee. That's pretty cool if someone charges you the next round. Do 8 damage at strength 5 -1. And then you've got 2 stratagems. You've got the Heroes of Rin's World. You start your shooting phase, pick a Liberator Strike Force unit from your army until the end of the phase. Each time you make an unmodified roll of hit of 6 for the ranged weapons, you get 2 hits instead of 1. Kind of cool for the Intercessors. And the Hellblasters actually especially. And then Paragons of Dorn. Use the end of your enemy shooting phase. Pick a Liberator Strike Force unit that was targeted by 1 or more attacks. They can immediately shoot. So you can shoot in the end of their shooting phase if someone attacked you. You just get mad and shoot back. That's a cool idea. But remember, again, it's only going to apply to Primaris characters, Intercessor squads, Reaver squads, and Hellblaster squads. But a free round of Hellblaster shooting is a free round of Hellblaster shooting, so why not? And it's only 1 CP. You get your Black Templars now. That's all the stuff for the Fists. The Sword Brethren applies to High Marshal Helbrecht, the Emperor's Champion, Captains, Company Champions, Company Veterans. They all get the Sword Brethren keyword. And then your Warlord trait is Master Swordsman. You get +1 to your attack characteristic. In addition, each time you make an unmodified roll of hit of 6, you get to 2 hits instead of 1. And then you have the Holy Arm of Antioch. It's back. You roll a d6 for every 10 models within 6 of you. 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. You pick 1 unit. For every 10 models, the unit roll die. 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. It's like a less good stasis bomb from Artemis. Then you get 2 stratagems. Uphold the honor of the Emperor. Use the start of the fight phase. Pick a Sword Brethren in your army. Until the end of that phase, roll a d6 every time they lose a wound. On a 5+, they shrug it. So for 1, you can get disgustingly resilient, basically. And then Suffer Not the Unclean to Live for 2. Use the stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Pick a Sword Brethren unit in your army. Add 1 to their attack characteristic for that unit in the phase. In addition, you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by that unit until the end of the phase. It's for 2. Still pretty good. And then there's 2 more Space Marine attachments, Ravenwing and Space Wolves. So the Ravenwing Attack Squadron and the Space Wolves Stalker Pack. For the Attack Squadron, 1 CP, it applies to anything with the Ravenwing keyword in the detachment. So all your floaty land speeders, everything that's Ravenwing. They gain the Attack Squadron keyword. I feel like this one's going to be popular. For your Warlord, can always choose, he gets lightning fast reactions, can always choose to fight first in the fight phase, even if he didn't charge. If someone else has the same ability, then they alternate. And then Monster Slayer of Caliban is your relic. It's a power sword. So you could give this to... no, you couldn't give it to Special Character Man. Who could you give this to? I just like a captain on a bike, I guess. +2 strength, -3 save, D3 wounds, and add 1 to wound rolls if you attack a monster or vehicle. That's pretty cool. 2 stratagems, you get Swift Strike. Use it in the fight phase after an attack squadron unit from your army is fought. That unit can immediately make a move and advance if it was in your movement phase. If they're already in combat, it can fall back instead. And then Signal the Attack, that one's for 2. This one's for 1. So this is 1 CP, use a stratagem after an attack squadron unit from your army has attacked an enemy in the shooting phase, and it resulted in losing 1 or more wounds. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by other attack squadron units from your army that target the same enemy unit in this phase. So you plink a guy for a wound, and the whole rest of the army gets +1 to hit him for 1 CP. That one seems super useful, especially if the planes are Ravenwing, aren't they? Yeah, that one's gonna be popular for 1 CP. And then the Space Wolf Stalker Pack, it only includes Battle Leaders, Blood Claws, and Reavers. They get the Stalker Pack keyword, so it's not very many models, but it's the stuff that was, actually, it wasn't Intercessor, so it's not the stuff that was in Tooth and Claw. Your Warlord trait is Saga of the Savage. Add 1 to your attacks characteristic if you charge in the same turn. And then your Deed of Legend, enemy models lose at least 5 wounds as a result of attacks made by your Warlord's melee weapons in a single phase, then everybody within 6 gets it, which is pretty cool. And his relic is the Iron Fang of Amma Grimghoul, model with the Power Axe. You get melee, +1 strength, -2 damage, -2 save, D3 damage. If a wound rolls an unmodified 6, takes D3 mortal wounds instead of normal damage. Yeah. And then 2 stratagems, you get Blood Scent. This one's 2 CPs, but I don't feel like it's worth 2 CPs because there's a clause already. You have to attack a wounded unit. So something that already has wounds on it or a wounded model in there. Or that has suffered casualties. They have to have someone that's died. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by Stalker Pack units from your army that target that enemy until the end of the phase. So for 2 CPs, but it's all melee stuff. It's not shooting stuff. It would be useful if it was shooting stuff. You have to have wounded something and then have a bunch of things in melee for it to really be of benefit, I feel like. So yeah, I don't know if that one's worth 2. I don't think any stratagem that has like a precondition is necessarily worth 2 because you can't control it. I feel like that should be a discount. Then you have Pack Killers for 1 CP. Choose a stratagem after a Stalker Pack unit makes a charge. Pick another friendly Stalker Pack unit within 12. Until the end of the phase, you can roll 3d6 when making charge moves and discard the lowest. So you get a bonus charge die, basically, and discard 1. That's all the Space Marine stuff. You've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 Space Marines in here. And then like 2 of everything else. Sorry, there's 5 orcs. 9 Space Marines, 5 orcs. And I think 4 guard too, actually. There's a lot of guard. So there's 2 for the Mechanicum. You get the Cybernetica cohort and the Servitor Maniple. And the Servitor Maniple is my favorite one because it has the most ghoulish stratagem so far in the game. Actually, it's a Warlord trait even. The Cybernetica cohort, though, applies to Tech Priest Dominus, Engine Seers, Cybernetica Data Smiths, and the Castellan Robots. They get the Cybernetica cohort keyword. Your Warlord trait is Adept of Legio Cybernetica. Once per battle, when your Warlord uses their Master Machines ability, they can regain D6 wounds instead of D3. Has to attack that cohort, basically, though. And then Arcana Mechanicum, you get as your relic the Doctrina Forius Servo Skull. Friendly units of Cybernetica cohort, Castellan Robots can attempt to change their battle protocols each of your movement phases if they're within 9 of this guy. So you don't have to pay the CPs to change your protocols. It's pretty cool. And then 2 stratagems. You get Power Surge. 1 CP, use the stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Pick a unit of Castellan Robots from your army within 3 of Cybernetica cohort, Cybernetica Datasmith. Add 3 to charge rolls for that unit until the end of the phase. They just go fast. And then Strafing Fire Run for 1 CP, use the stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Pick a unit of Castellan Robots from your army that has the Aegis Protocol in effect. Until the end of that turn, treat all heavy weapons as if they were assault weapons for rules purposes. It's kind of neat. And then your Servitor Maniple, and this is made up of Tech Priest Dominus, Engine Seers, Cataphront Breachers, Cataphront Destroyers, and Servitors. They all get the Servitor Maniple tag. The Warlord trait is the Master of Biosplicing. At the end of your movement phase, you can pick a unit of Servitors within 6 of your Warlord, and a unit of Cataphront Breachers or Destroyers also within 6. 1 model from a unit of Servitors is immediately slain, and the Destroyers or Breachers regain D3 wounds. So you cut parts off of him and tack them on the other one. This might be my favorite thing in the game right now. It's so ghoulish, and it's so perfectly Mechanicum to be like, there's some useful parts over there, and to start hacking up Servitors and sticking their parts on the other ones. I love it. It's so good. If there's no wounded models in the unit and any models in the unit have been slain, you can return a slain model to play with 1 wound remaining. That's pretty great. You just can't place it if it's going to come within 1 inch of an enemy model. And then finally, you've got your relic, which is the Gene Cog Corpus. It's a it's an Omnissiah Axe, and it's +1 strength, -2 save, 2 damage. If the wound roll for this is an unmodified 6, take D3 mortal wounds instead of normal damage. Pretty cool. 2 stratagems, you get Enhanced Bionics. You get a 5+ Invul for your Breachers or Destroyers, Servitors, Breachers, or Destroyers at the beginning of the battle, before the battle begins. So you can do this multiple times. Give them all 5+ invulns. And then for 1 CP, you get the newest Spheric Mind Lock. Use a stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick a unit of Breachers, Servitor, Maniple, or Destroyers within 6 of a friendly Tech Priest Dominus. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by them until the end of the phase. +1 to hits, also pretty dope for 1 CP. I feel like both of those are worth 1 CP. So that's the Mechanicum stuff. Let's talk about the Genestealer Cult. There's the Anointed Throng. Dad jokes. And then there's the Deliverance Brood Surge. The one applies to all the neophytes and stuff, all the gribbly kind of like mine workers with extra arms. And the other one's all the the Abominants and Aberrants. So I hope you bought Tooth and Claw, because you need the Abominant to do these ones. So it is 1 CP, and the Abominants and Aberrants in the attachment get the Anointed Throng keyword. Insidious Mindworm is your Warlord trait. Add 1 to charge rolls for your Warlord and friendly Anointed Throng units within 6 when the roll is made. And then he gets the Blessed Sledgehammer. It only applies to the Abominant. And he gets a ×2 strength, -4 AP, D6 damage. And damage rolls of 1 or 2 count as 3. So it's a 3 to 6 damage Thunderhammer. With no minus to hit either. Your stratagems are for 2 CPs, Devotion Till Death. It's just if you die, you power and fight even if you fought already. And then it applies only to Anointed Throng Aberrants, not to your character. And then for the fight for the Anointed one, use a stratagem at the start of your fight phase. Pick an Anointed Throng Aberrant unit within 6 of the Anointed Throng Abominant. Reroll wounds of 1 for attacks made by them until the end of the phase. So it makes them super fighty. I would say it's worth it, because you're just, for 1 CP, you're just basically jazzing up your Abominant to super high levels. And then your Deliverance Brood Surge has another funny one in it. It's 1 CP and it applies to Acolyte Icon Wards, Neophyte Hybrids, Acolyte Hybrids, and Goliath Trucks. They get the Deliverance Brood Surge keyword. You get the Augur of the Insurgent for your Warlord. You can reroll advanced rolls and charge rolls for Deliverance Brood Surge within 6 of the Warlord when they're made. You get the Sacred Relics of the Cult, the Vial of the Grandsire's Blood. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic of Genestealer Cult units within 6 of the Bear. So it applies to everybody, not just people in this attachment. For the ones in this detachment, you can add 2, at the start of a fight phase, once per battle, you can add 2 to the Genestealer Cult infantry model from your army within 3 inches, add 2 to their attack and strength characteristic at the end of the phase. So any Genestealer Cult's infantry model, which I guess would include the Anointed Abominant if you want, give him +2 attacks and strength. Because why not have a, what is he, strength? He'd be strength 14 then? Let's go, vehicles! And then you get 2 stratagems. You get the first to draw blood. Use stratagem at the start of your fight phase. Pick a Deliverance Brood Surge unit from your army. They made a charge move and add 1 to wound rolls for their attacks until the end of the phase. This is my favorite one. Reckless Maneuver. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Pick a Brood Surge Goliath truck unit with a Brood Surge unit embarked on it. That truck can then move and disembark afterwards as opposed to disembarking first. But everyone that gets out has to roll a die, and on a 1, a model from the unit slain. It's just a hilarious, like, the truck just skids forward and they all jump out and try and fight. So then we've got the Windrider Host. This is the Eldar, one of 2 Eldar detachments. And the Windrider Host, of course, is from Same Han, as is the Wake the Dead guys, who would also be taking part in the Wraith Host thing. So you've got Autarch Skyrunners, Farseer Skyrunners, Warlock Skyrunner, Conclaves, Windriders, and Vipers. They all get the Windrider Host keyword. Your Warlord trait is Wild Rider. Your Warlord and any friendly Windrider Host units within 6 of your Warlord can charge you if they fell back. And then your Remnant of Glory is the Howling Sky Sword of Galaleth. It's a Witchblade, and it's 3 flat damage and always wounds on 2s. Yeah! Then your 2 stratagems are Nimble Escape for 2 CPs. Use it at the start of the fight phase if a Windrider Host unit has already fought. They can immediately make a move or advance as if it was the movement phase. And if there's enemy within 1, they can fall back instead. So you can go in, go out. And then for 3 CPs, you get Tempest Blades. Use it on a Windrider Host Farseer Skyrunner unit from your army. Improve their armor penetration characteristic of Windrider Host units within 6 inches by 1. So all of the AP in the shooting phase within 6 of your Farseer goes down by -1. That's pretty great for shuriken catapults. That sounds like a whole lot of -3 saves? -2, -3? It'd be bad. It'd be bad. Then you get your Wraith Host. Applies to Spirit Seers and Constructs. Wraith Constructs. They all get the Wraith Host keyword. The Warlord trait is you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Wraith Host units, Construct units within 6 of the Warlord. And then your Rune of Battle, you get a new psych power, Twilight Gloom. It's casting value 6, and then if you're manifested, pick a Wraith Host unit within 18 inches to start of the next turn. They get cover, even if they're not in cover. It's pretty cool. Your Remnant of Glory is the Warp Spawn Blade. It's a Witch Staff. Flat 2 damage, always wins on 2s, and ignoring vulnerable saves for Psychers and Demons, because it's made to mess them up. Get wrecked. And then you get 2 stratagems. You got Wrath of the Dead for 1 CP. Use it in the start of the fight phase. Pick a Wraith Host Wraith Construct unit from your army. Add 1 of their attack characteristic. And Spirit Shield for 2. I love this one. Within 6 inches of a Wraith Host Spirit Seer, any Wraith Host Construct unit gains a 4+ invul save, but the Spirit Seer loses his Spirit Armor, his 4+ invulnerable save. So he powers them with his own Rune Armor. He risks it all to power them instead. That's a cool rule. I like that there's an up and down for that. But again, because there's a down, I feel like it shouldn't be worth 2 CPs. You're paying a cost for it on top of that, like you're taking it away. It's thematic, but I feel like the 2 CPs then becomes too high for something that has a negative downside. And now we're on to the Imperial Guard, the finest of the Emperor, and they have a grand total of 5 different detachments, special detachments. There's an Emperor's Blade Assault Company. It consists of company commanders, platoon commanders, command squads, special weapon squads, veterans, infantry squads, chimeras, and Toroxes, and they all become Emperor's Blade. Your Warlord gets Mechanized Commander. He can give orders even from inside of a Torox or a Chimera, and he counts as being within 3 inches of a Voxcaster. But when he's doing so, he has to target other Emperor's Blade units, so he can just shout through the radio at people. And then he gets the Shield of Mortwald. The bearer has a 3+ invul save, which cannot be rerolled for any reason. The first time this invulnerable save is failed, the Shield of Mortwald ceases to function for the rest of the battle. So your commander basically gets a 3+ invul save. It's an Emperor's Blade character, so it can apply to basically company commanders and platoon commanders. That's it. So that's neat, I guess. You get 2 stratagems. You get the Mechanized Fire Support. So if someone gets charged within 6 inches of another Emperor's Blade Torox, it can Overwatch on a 4+ against them. So it's just a shared Overwatch thing with a 4+ to hit. 1 CP, and then 1 CP for Rapid Redeploy. This one's really cool. It's the same as the Genestealer Cult one. An Emperor's Blades unit on a Chimera or Torox can get out at the end of a move instead of a beginning, and they just count as moving. There's no downside. They're not reckless like the Genestealer Cult is. They just get out. They don't suffer any penalties, which I think is kind of cool. And then the Emperor's Wrath Artillery Company. This one is going to be company commanders, Master of Ordnance, Basilisks, Hydras, and Wyverns. They all get the Emperor's Wrath keyword. And then you get your Lord of Ordnance for your Warlord. He is... Each time you roll a wound roll of 6+ for an attack made by a friendly Emperor's Wrath unit within 6 of your Warlord in the shooting phase, its AP goes down by 1. So that's pretty cool. It's improved by 1. So AP 0 becomes -1, etc., etc. Really cool for Wyverns, actually, for wound rolls of 6+. And then you get your Agrippina class Orbital Tracker as your relic. In the shooting phase, pick an Emperor's Wrath unit within 6 of the bearer. Until the end of the phase, no one gets cover when you're shooting with them. 2 stratagems, you get Suppressive Fire for 1 CP. Pick an Emperor's Wrath vehicle in your army. That unit cannot shoot this phase. Instead, it lays down Suppressive Fire. Pick an enemy infantry unit in range of at least one of its weapons. Till the start of the turn, they cannot fire Overwatch in half their move. I'm pretty terrified of Ogrins. Not being able to Overwatch against them and having your move characters so you can't get away is pretty terrifying. And then for 2 CPs, Pounding Barrage. Use a stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick an Emperor's Wrath vehicle unit in your army. Pick one of that unit's ranged weapons. That unit can shoot twice with that weapon this phase. So for 2 CPs, super barrage, kind of cool. You get the Emperor's Conclave Infantry Company. So now remember that the Ministorum has basically infiltrated all of the Imperial units on Vigilus, and that they're a little freakier and stabbier than normal. Because otherwise this detachment doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It can include company commanders, platoon commanders, command squads, infantry squads, conscripts, Ministorum priests, and crusaders. They all get the Emperor's Conclave keyword. And their warlord trait is Fiery Denouncer. He becomes a priest, basically. You get reroll hit rolls of 1 for your warlord and friendly Emperor's Conclave units within 6 inches of him in the fight phase. And then Heirloom of Conquest, he gets the Litanies of the Holy Synod. If a friendly Emperor's Conclave unit within 6 inches takes a morale test, roll 2 and pick the lowest. If the bearer is slain before you're moving from the battlefield, pick an Emperor's Conclave unit within 6 of the bearer. For the rest of the battle, they don't have to take morale tests, they get +1 attack because he martyrs himself if they all freak out. But you can't put Ogrins in this detachment. So stratagems are for 2 CPs, no quarter given. Use at the start of the fight phase, pick an Emperor's Conclave unit in your army. Till the end of that phase, when a model from that unit is slain, it pauses and fights again. Sanctimonious Charge for 1 CP. Pick a stratagem after an Emperor's Conclave Minister and Priest makes a charge move. Till the end of the phase, add 1 to charge rolls for the Conclave units within 12 inches of that Priest. Kind of cool, but I mean, you're talking about making a fighty guard attachment. I don't think it's going to get used very much. The Emperor's Fist Tank Company is the 4th one. It applies to Leman Russes. That's it. Any of the Leman Russes for 1 CP. Your Warlord, the Emperor's Fist character, gets, you can reroll hit rolls with when your Warlord and friendly Emperor's Fist units are within 6 inches fire Overwatch. So just flat reroll hits on Overwatch, which is pretty cool. And then Heirloom of Conquest, you get the Hammer of Sunderance. It's a battle cannon. It's heavy D6, strength 8, -2, flat 3 damage. So a not D3 damage battle cannon. That's pretty cool with Grinding Advance. Speaking of which, for 1 CP, you can Grinding Advance no matter how far you move in the movement phase. It's pretty cool. And then Steel Phalanx for 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Pick an enemy unit. Every time an Emperor's Fist unit in your army finishes a move within 1 inch, on a 4+, they D3 mortal wounds. So you just keep driving Leman Russes into a unit, and on a 4+, you D3 mortal wounds. And the 5th one is a Tempestus Drop Force, which can be comprised of Tempestor Primes, Tempestus Scions, Tempestus Command Squads, and Valkyries, and they all get the Tempestus Drop Force keyword. Their Warlord trait is Grab Shoot Commando, because he's going to get to the Chappa. He adds 1 hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Tempestus Drop Force infantry units that disembark from a friendly drop Valkyrie this turn or within 6 inches of your Warlord. So, +1 hit, 2+ hitting Hellguns. It's kind of cool. Get it a Valkyrie and just murder someone with Melta Guns even. That's a neat, or demo charges even. That's a neat way of throwing out a whole bunch of dice. And then Relics of the Progenium, he brought it from his orphanage. The Cypher Moody Null Emitter, if the bearer is targeted or affected by a psychic power, on a 2+, it has no effect on the bearer. But only on the bearer. I was going to have some questions. I think it affects other things or jumps, like a lightning bolt that jumps like the Space Wolves have. And then finally, Precision Drop is the first stratagem for 1 CP. Basically, you can always get out and you don't roll a d6 to see if anybody's slain. So you can get it along the line of your Valkyrie, as you can with Valkyries, but no rolling to see if someone dies. You're just good at it for 1 CP. And the other one, 1 CP Aerial Fire Support. It's the same as the Torox one. If someone charges a Drop Force infantry model, if within 6 of a Valkyrie, it gets to Overwatch on a 4+ against it. So it shares Overwatch and hits on 4s. And that's it. So some cool stuff for Scions, makes them a little bit different. And then we've got 1, 2, I think it's 5, 4 Orc detachments. The first one I don't think is going to get used very often, but it's super cool. It's a Stomp-A-Mob. Pick an Orc Super Heavy detachment from your army to be a Stomp-A-Mob. So you can't use the Auxiliary Super Heavy or the Auxiliary Detachment. It's only the big one. So you have to have 3 Stompas to use this one. 1 becomes a character, which is cool. So you get your Relic and your Warlord trait. And then the other ones can use these stratagems. So the character one can choose one of 2 Warlord traits. Gork's one, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made in the fight phase. Or Mork's one, add 1 to wound rolls for shooting attacks made by your Warlord. Pretty cool. And then Shiny Gubbins, you just get a power field for 5+ invul on your character. It's pretty cool. For 1 CP, you can Stomp, Stomp, Stomp. I like this one. Use a stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Pick a Stomp Mob in your army. It's within 1 inch of enemy units. Roll a d6 for every enemy model within 3 inches of them. He takes a mortal wound on a 6. It just tap dances. Tries to stomp on everything. And then for 4 CPs, you can Stomp a Porter. You can put a Stomper and a Teleporter. It's exactly what it sounds like, but it costs you 4 CPs. I wish they'd let you use that one on auxiliary detachments, because it would have made the Stompa cool and fun. Just teleport Stompas, who cares? We'll just do it. If the Swarm Lord can throw a super heavy Tyranid around the table by making it move twice, why can't we just teleport a Stompa? And then you get your Cult of Speed. This one was spelled on Warhammer Community. For 1 CP, your Speed Freaks in the attachment get the Cult of Speed keyword. You get Quick Lads as your Warlord trait. Cult of Speed units within 12 inches of your Warlord in the morale phase automatically pass morale test if they advanced. Shiny Gubbins, you get a Snaz Strike. Def Killer War Strike only, add 1 to their toughness, and they get 5+ invul save. And then 2 stratagems for 2 CPs, you can Turbo Boosta. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Pick a Cult of Speed unit from your army. If they advance that phase, they double their move instead of rolling d6. And then Charge Through them. Use a stratagem before a Cult of Speed unit consolidates. They get to go 2d6 instead of 3 inches. Now this one I do see getting used a whole bunch, and it's the Dread Wah. 1 CP, your Big Mechs, Gorkanauts, Morganauts, Def Dreads, and Killicans get the Dread Wah keyword. You get a Dread Mech, model with Big Mechaniac only. When your Warlord uses Big Mech ability to repair a Dread Wah unit, add 1 to the number of wounds. It's pretty cool. And then your Shiny Gubbins, you get a souped up Shaka for your shock attack gun. It's heavy 2d6 instead of 1d6, basically. That's it. It is all the same thing. Strength 2d6, -5 save, and d6 damage. And then 2 stratagems, 2 CPs for custom ammo. Pick a Dreadwall unit from your army in the shooting phase that you can shoot twice. Really cool for Morkanauts and Gorkanauts. And then 1 CP for Mech Connections. This one's not going to get used because it's pick a Dreadwall unit from your army that's within 1 from Mech Workshop. I get a custom job on a 4+ instead of a 6. But nobody's using Mech Workshops, unfortunately. They are cool. I like the idea, then they are cool. And this is it, the last page in the whole book. Look, there's nothing after this. It's just, this is why I was surprised. There's like a map. There's no page of like how you record your campaigns. And it's the Blitz Brigade. And this is my favorite orc one. I like the Cult of Speed one. I think this one's the cooler one of the 2. It includes war bosses, just war bosses, battle wagons, gun wagons, and bone breakers. They get the Blitz Brigade keyword. The warlord trait is backseat driver. If he's embarked on a Blitz Brigade transport, add 1 to its move characteristic because he's driving now. He's a Morton Joe. And in addition, while your warlord goes, the transport gets Here We Go as an ability. Reroll your charges. That's pretty cool for a bone breaker. And then Chubby Gubbins, you get the Blitz Shota. At the start of your shooting phase, if the bearer is embarked on the Blitz Brigade battle wagon, pick an enemy that's visible to that battle wagon. Till the end of the phase, reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Blitz Brigade battle wagons within 6 of this battle wagon, and against the enemy that you picked. He basically shouts at all the other battle wagons to shoot something really good. And then you get 3 stratagems actually instead of 2. You get opening salvo for 1. Use it in the start of your shooting phase of the first battle round. Pick a Blitz Brigade gun wagon for your army and double their range. Kind of cool. And then crush them for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Blitz Brigade bone breaker from your army is chosen to fight. Roll 3d6 for the ram and choose the highest result. And the last one is hold on, boys, for 2 CPs. So you can during your movement phase, before you move a clan Blitz Brigade battle wagon, pick a friendly clan infantry unit wholly within 3 and remove it from the battlefield. After the battle wagon's moved, drop it off within 3, but it can't move and charge again afterwards. So basically, you can pick up and drop off in the same round for 2 CPs. So imagine you could pick up like a huge unit of burners or tank busters and drop them off somewhere else and leapfrog them across the battle wagon. It's a clutch move, but for 2 CPs, it could be pretty cool. I think my favorite is the Crushing one though, and the backseat driving war boss makes me pretty happy. And that's it. That's our run through of Imperium Nihilus, Vigilus Defiant, Book 1. Book 1 of 2. I don't know what's going to happen in the sequel, but I do know you got 18 games to play in this one if you want to run a league. And I think all my comments stand. I think this is a great open source campaign book for anybody that bought an army this year. So you bought an army this year, I shouldn't say anyone bought an army this year, anyone that bought an army that was one of the big releases from this year, so things like Tooth and Claw, Rogue Trader, whatever. There's something in this book for you. If you're running a league, if you're a club organizer, or if you are a store owner and you're trying to spice up your 40K night, there's tons of cool pick and choose source material in here. And it's like it's a campaign in a book. Well, in a book. That sounds dumb, but it is. It's literally just ready to go, I guess. It's a rip and go campaign. And it adds some cool spice and some cool flavor. It kind of advances the timeline a little bit more with some sort of like classic tropes like the industrial imperial world in peril, the hero that steps forward at the 11th hour to become the leader of everybody, and let them all get their shit together. Bjorn the Fellhand can't do it all. Someone has to take charge every now and again. It's not him. And that's it, yeah. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens in the second one. If I was to make my bets right now, Abaddon shows up, something goes terribly wrong, and I'm betting they just split the Imperium in half. They just do it. And one becomes a lawless war zone, and the other one just becomes Imperium Sanctum and becomes smaller. Or the Tyranids show up and eat anybody, who knows. But if you want to know who's going to be in the second book, I'm betting it's the next wave of releases up until that book comes out. So, hope you enjoyed this review. Big thanks to Workshop for sending me this book to check out, and I hope you guys enjoyed that and enjoyed this format. There'll be lots more of this coming up in the weeks to come, I guess, because I do have a battle report on Wednesday next week featuring the Speedwa. Dan from Max Aggression Hobbies and I filmed a game this week with the new Speedwa rules, with my Death Watch against his like all new Speedwa army that's been painting up, which is pretty rad. And you get to see that later on, so in like 3 days. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you for more in this future. Till next time, Ash. Happy gaming. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Deathray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course I will continue doing it as long as I can.